So when I was doing this list, so when I was kind of thinking about what I wanted this list to be, one of these days what I'm saying is going to make sense. Hello everybody, my name is Kelsey and we're about to get very, very nerdy with the list of books I want to read in 2023. So I've been teasing this video for a while, probably at this point, but we are here to talk about the books that I have planned to read this year, my kind of like list of books to read. If you saw my goals for wrap-up goals reaction kind of from last year, you know that I did not do so good at the list that I did last year, and I did 12 books that I had purchased the year before. So when I was kind of sitting down thinking about what I wanted this year's list to be, I kind of combined a couple of things. I was thinking, oh, we'll make a list of just romance books because that's what I'm feeling right now. I want all of the romance all the time, and that's something that I want all the time. So like even if I'm not in the mood for like one book specifically, I'm going to be in the mood for a romance and I'll be able to fit these in. And then I was thinking I liked the idea of doing books that I had bought the previous year, pre-ordered from the previous year, and I just didn't get around to. And so I decided to kind of combine those, and I'll make a shorter list. So we have 10 books here that came out last year in 2022, and they are all romances. So hopefully I'll be able to get to this list because, again, I'm always in the mood for romance. Also, it's less, so it's not like one book a month. There can be a couple of months during the year where I don't have to read one of these. For example, January is probably going to be one of those. But I am interested in all of these. These are all romances that came out last year that I was interested in, pre-ordered or something along those lines. So that is the goal for this year. So we'll see how it goes, but let's dive into that list real quick. So the first one technically came out in 2021, but the paperback I pre-ordered and it came out last year, so that's kind of why I'm counting it, and that is the Soulmate Equation by Christina Lauren. This, like I said, is not their most recent romance, but it's pretty high up there. So this book has to do with dating apps and the statistics kind of that go into it. We follow our main character Jessica, who is a single mom. I don't actually know how old her daughter is, but she's a single mom, and she knows data, she knows statistics. That's kind of where her brain's at, but she's having trouble making ends meet. And so she finds out about this dating app called Generically, or Generic Ally, which is a new DNA-based matchmaking system. And she's kind of sworn off dating, and she's like, I'm never going to go back into the dating pool. I don't want to do that. And then she hears about this app, and it kind of changes her mind. So she goes, why not? You know, what could hurt? So she does, and she ends up getting a 98% match with the founder and CEO, River. And so she's very hesitant about this. She doesn't like him. She doesn't actually think it's working. But the company decides, basically, they said they'll pay her if she kind of goes along with it, brings them along to all of these events, kind of showcases whether or not it's working, sees them kind of going on dates, that kind of thing. Sounds like fake dating in a sense, but also kind of getting to know each other. And then, of course, through that, the two of them are probably going to fall for each other. But I love Christina Lauren, and this is, I read a lot of their newer stuff here recently, but this is one that is like one of their newer things that I haven't read yet. So I'm very excited about this, but technically this came out in 2021, but the paperback came out last year, so that's the pre-order element to it. The next one is the third in a series that I am honestly surprised I haven't read yet, and that is To Marry and To Meddle, and this is by Martha Waters. This one is the third in the Regency Vows series by this author, and for a while we were thinking it was only going to be, she only kind of announced these 3, so I thought we were going to be done after this one, but a few more have been announced. So the 4th one in this series is coming out this year, and I'm very excited about it. But this is the most recent one. I've loved the first 2 in the series, so I definitely need to get around to this. This one follows our main character, Lady Emily Turner. She's been out kind of as a possible marriage match for 6 seasons now. And there is someone who is in mind. Basically, her father has a lot of debt, and no one wants to take on that debt, by marrying her. And so there is one guy who will do it, but she cannot stand him. He is just a no-no. I don't know if he's older than her or what it is, but there's something about him that's a no-no. And so she ends up creating a marriage of convenience with this guy named Julian, who has a theater of sorts, but it's mostly known as like where lords would take their mistresses, because it's not polite to be out in society, but it's a way for them to kind of be out in society without being out in society. And so he's trying to turn that into an actual like place that the Tawn will go to. And so he thinks by marrying her, he's happy to take on the debt that she kind of comes with, and thinks that by marrying her, she can help him out by bringing her friends to this theater and basically giving it a better name. So there's a lot more to it. Martha Waters is really good at writing like very sassy banter, so I'm excited to see the relationship here, but it is a marriage of convenience, which is one of the tropes I love. So I'm very excited about this one. The next one is the newest one by Emily Henry, which is Book Lovers. I really was trying to get this in at the end of last year, and it just didn't happen. So this year, I think, is the year for Book Lovers. Everyone seems to love this book. That's very funny. It seems like people are like, I've heard no negative things about this book. So this book follows our main characters, Nora and Charlie, and Nora is a literary agent, I think. Yeah, that's her official title. She's a literary agent, and she kind of needs a vacation. Her sister basically begs her to come take a month off with her, and she does because she loves her sister, so she kind of leaves the city behind. She kind of thinks of her life as like a book, a fairy tale. She's the heroine to her own story, that kind of thing. And so she's left the city behind and goes with her sister to kind of a smaller city town kind of place in North Carolina, and she stumbles upon this guy named Charlie, who is a editor that she knows from the city, and they do not get along, but they keep finding themselves in these very kind of meet cute sort of moments. So I've loved Emily Henry's previous books that I have read. They both got, I believe both of them got 5 stars, so I can't wait to see what she does in her new book, as well as like having this book centric kind of story on top of it. I mean, she did write a book about a writer, but this one being part of maybe more of the publication side of it, I'm very interested to see how it's going to go. And all these super meet cute moments I think are going to be fun. Plus, Emily Henry just kind of brings the realness along with the romance, so I'm excited to see what that's going to look like. So yes, that one for sure is on here. The next one is a sequel to a romance that I read a couple of years ago, and that is Husband Material by Alexis Hall. The first one in this series is Boyfriend Material, which followed our main 2 characters, Luke and Oliver, in a like fake relationship of sorts. They kind of were helping each other out for different reasons. And I don't know a whole lot about what this one is about, but I loved that one. I loved the romance between the 2 of them. One of them is the son of a rock star. One of them is very kind of more uptight and kind of that very like structured lifestyle, whereas one of them was like loosey-goosey, let's go with the flow, and it was the 2 of them being messy people together, and I really loved it. It has some amazing British humor, just very British. I don't know how to explain it. It was just awesome. So this one is kind of the next step for them. I'm assuming they're going to get married based on the title of Husband Material, but I don't really know the story that we're going to get in this one, but I loved them so much in the first book, so I definitely wanted to dive into this one, and it came out last year, which it kind of surprised me. I didn't realize it was a thing until all of a sudden it was out in the world, and I was like, well, I need that. So yes, this is one that's just going to be a fun book that I think if you like things like Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston, this is a series that I think you would definitely enjoy. So I'm excited to dive into the second one. The next one is a book that is a sequel as well, kind of a companion sequel to one I've already read. I also had the arc of this and didn't get to it because of course I didn't. And that is The Belle of Belgrave Square, and this is by Mimi Matthews. This is the second in her Bells of London series. This one specifically follows Jasper and Julia, and this is going to be a series of 4, and it follows these 4 girls who have become friends in the first book. They all kind of really like riding horses, and like that's their equestrians, and so that's a big part of their story. So we saw one of the girls in our first book and met the rest of them, and so this one follows another one in this friend group. So Julia has almost crippling social anxiety, which we did see in the first book, so now we kind of get to see that in this setting. Because of that, she does not feel comfortable in ballrooms, so she never really gets to meet any of like her possible suitors or anything like that. And so she's really just kind of struggles. That what brings her happiness is when she's riding her horse. And so you've got her side of this, and then you've got Jasper's side of this. He was a war hero. He lives in basically a haunted estate in Yorkshire and has it says, but tales abound of his bastard children and his haunted estate, which makes no one want to marry him. And so he kind of sees Julia and says, that's who I want. And so in a rash decision, Julia decides to take her life into her own hands and randomly rides her horse to find him and proposes to him. And they kind of have a marriage of convenience. Basically, like she'll give her dowry if he grants her like the things that she likes the most, which is riding her horse and reading. So there's definitely some secrets within his past, giving me like Jane Eyre vibes. But I'm excited about this. I loved the first one. These are really good romantic stories. At least the first one was really good romantic story, which was relatively clean if you're someone who doesn't like any kind of smutty historical romance. But I very much enjoyed this series, and I can't wait to dive into Julia's story, because out of all of the friends that we met in the first book, Julia was the one that intrigued me the most. So I'm excited that we get to see her story. The only book on this list I don't actually physically own, I did have an ARC of it. So I got that last year. It came out last year. I'm probably going to get my own copy. I just haven't done it yet. And that is Dating Dr. Dill. This one is by Nisha Sharma, and it is a kind of relationship set on TV show kind of story. So this one is it just sounds so fun, you know? So we have our main character, Karina, and she basically is holding out for love. She's kind of watched her parents fall in love, and she thinks that is out there. So she's kind of holding out on this, but her dad is selling their childhood home, and she does not like this. So she makes a deal with him that she will find someone to marry within, I think, 3 months is what it is, and he will help her basically like give the house to her instead of having to sell it, because she doesn't have enough money to buy it. And then on the other end of this, you have Dr. Prem, who is the host of the Dr. Dill show. And you've got her and him, and she goes on his show and they have an argument that goes viral, and he has a clinic that he's been working on. And basically because of this argument that goes live, he is left shortchanged and can't get this clinic up and running. And so some of the aunties from Karina's family basically come to him and say, hey, if you can convince Karina that like you guys are true love, that kind of thing, we'll fund your clinic. And so it's fake it's not fake dating. There's some stuff within this, because it clearly is going to turn into something, but like the fact that the aunties are the ones who kind of like hire him to do this, what does that mean? It's going to be crazy. So I've actually never read anything by Nisha Sharma, but I've heard great things. So I'm very excited about this. This one got pretty high hopes. So I don't have a copy of it actually, but it was supposed to come out last year and I was supposed to read it because ARCs, and it just didn't happen. So we're going to do it this year instead. And let's be honest, I'll get a copy before the year's out, because hello. The next one is the newest book by Lily Menon, and that is the Sizzle Paradox. Again, a book that I pre-ordered and also had the ARC of and didn't read. Is there a theme here? You can see that I'm trying to get through my ARCs. But this one is the author of Makeup Breakup. She also writes under the name Sadaya Menon for her YA books. I have like her entire stack right there. But this is her most recent one. I read her first step into adult romance, and it was great. So I'm very excited about this one. This one kind of surrounds a graduate school, so it does have that college vibe to it. Follow our main two characters, Lyric and Kian, and they are roommates. Cue the freaking, like, what was it, Vine from however many years ago, and they were roommates. So this really starts with Lyric because her thesis is about, I'm going to read it because I'm going to get this wrong. She's studying sexual chemistry and romantic partners and what makes for a successful long-term relationship, but she can't seem to figure it out in her own dating life. Whereas her roommate, they're best friends, they've never thought about dating each other, Kian, he has no problem dating people. So they basically somehow create a bargain where he's going to help her date people, and hopefully that'll help her thesis and so she can finally graduate. It's obviously going to end so well because this whole like them being roommates, best friends thing is going to turn into something totally different. I can already tell. I did technically start it. Oh look, I have a bookmark in here. I made it to page 48. So we're going to actually read it this time. This one I must have started and then put on pause or something. I don't know what happened, but we're going to do it because I love Lily Mennon's work. I am very excited to see her next step into the adult genre, to see if it matches as well as the first one did, because I loved the first one so much. So I love her books, and I'm excited to dive into this one too. The next one is part of a series. Again, it's a companion that doesn't really go together, but it's called a Meant to Be novel, and that is by the book, and this is by Jasmine Guillory. This is a Beauty and the Beast inspired book. The first one was a Cinderella inspired book. They're basically a bunch of books that are inspired by some sort of fairy tale, and they're all written by different authors. So this one has to do with publishing. So this follows our main character, Isabella, or Izzy, and she works at a publishing house. It says here that she didn't expect to be 25, still living at home, and one of the few Black employees at the publishing house. She's overworked and underpaid and is constantly torn between speaking up and stifling her opinions. So when she hears, I think the director or the person in charge basically complaining about a high-profile author who hasn't sent in his manuscript, she offers to go find him and kind of convince him to finish writing it and sending it in. She's thinking, this will be great. This will be my way in to show them how serious I am. They can trust me. Maybe they'll bump me up within the company. She gets there and he is super standoffish. His name is Beau Towers. He, like I said, super standoffish, really withdrawn, and she's thinking, oh, a couple pep talks will be great. I'll be able to pull this book out of him, and he is the opposite of that. But they start talking. They have a lot in common. That he ends up like actually writing while she's there, and it sounds like as the deadline nears, it says here, they realize there may be something there that wasn't there before. So very much a Beauty and the Beast retelling, but it's just a new kind of reinvention of the Beauty and the Beast fairy tale, but for a newer audience, and I'm very excited about it. So I liked the first one in this series, even though it was a totally different author, but the idea behind the series is really interesting, and I love that it's about publishing. That's very exciting. The next one is a kind of workout body positivity romance, and that is Set on You by Amy Lee. It says, he makes her heart race. This follows our main character, Crystal, and it says right here that she's a curvy fitness influencer. She had a not so great breakup most recently and has no time for men. She's kind of she's going to throw her head and her heart into her work. And so it's her and this guy who's a firefighter. His name is Scott. He is a new gym patron who, it says right here, roughly steals her favorite squat rack. Sparks fly. They kind of battle it out for different parts of the gym. I think it's going to be a lot of like meet cute banter type moments. And then they end up randomly running into each other at their grandparents' engagement party. So it sounds like it's going to be a meet cute in the gym. It's going to be about fitness, but it's going to be more than that, as you know, it leads up to, I'm assuming their grandparents are marrying each other. So their grandparents' wedding, the relationship between the two of them, that kind of thing. I'm expecting some really cute meet cute moments. This is Amy Lee's debut novel. Well, it says debut romantic comedy, so I'm not sure if this is her debut novel or maybe just her debut romance, but it looks really cute. I've heard good things, and I forgot I had it. I'm not gonna lie. So I'm excited to give it a chance. The sun has decided to come out all of a sudden, right in my eyeballs. And the very last book that I want to add to this list is the most recent one in Elise Kova's Married to Magic series, which is A Duel with the Vampire Lord. This is a fantasy romance. I think this is the only book on this list that's not a historical or contemporary romance. Like all of them take place in like quote unquote the real world, but this one is a little bit different. It is a little bit thicker than her past two books, but I've loved the two that came before this in the series. It is a series of standalones, so you don't have to read them in order. I just have because I've loved them so much. They just happen to all take place in the same world. This one, as you can tell, deals with vampires. So this back is a little confusing. I think it'll make more sense once I've dived into the story. Most of these books are based on some sort of fairy tale or Greek mythology. This one, it says it's inspired by Snow White meets Beauty and the Beast. And I'm trying to see if there's any kind of Greek mythology. I don't see anything here, so maybe just a couple of fairy tales. We follow our main character, Florine, who has a position in the Hunter's Hamlet, which is basically an armed forces and a bunch of people who are vampire hunters. And she is very proud of this. She is basically a faithful servant to the Master Hunter, and has a good part in her community until the night of the blood moon, and her brother is dying by the hands of the vampire lord, and she bargains for basically switching places with him, and something happens. They like create a bargain, and so she's not dead, but she's helping them out, and she's basically learning more about vampires, and they're not as scary as you think they are. So there's probably way more to it than that. The back, again, is a little confusing, but I love her fantasy romances. They are, I would consider them new adult. I'm not sure if it's actually said online, but they're self-published books that are just real fun. They're standalone, happily ever after kind of stories, and I've loved the last two. We had a book about elves and a book about fae, and so now we have a book about vampires. So I'm not sure if there's going to be any more in the series. I don't think there's anything else planned as of right now. This is the most recent one. I've loved it, and I'm hoping to get into it soon. This feels like a February kind of book. I don't know why. I think it's just because it's pink. It's giving me like the February vibes, even though it's about like blood and stuff, which is not my favorite thing, but love a good romance, I will say. So that's also what I want to get to. So the sun has, as you can see, decided to come out in full force just as we finish this video. So I hope that you enjoyed my list of books that I'm hoping to read this year. I thought about making a 23 books to read in 2023, but the idea of creating 23 books that I want to read in 1 year stressed me out. So we did a list of 10 instead. So I hope you enjoyed. Let me know if you've read any of the books that I mentioned, or do you have a list yourself with a few books that you would like to get to this year, or just some things you have in the back of your mind that you would like to get to this year. I would love to know. And I haven't done an emoji in a while, so let's do that. If you want to comment something but you're not sure what to comment, go ahead and comment the red heart emoji, because they're all romances. Feels pretty self-explanatory. But that is all I have for you guys today, so I hope that you enjoyed, and if you did, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe down below if you'd like to be part of this awesome growing family. I've also got all my social media down there, as well as other fun bookish links, so check all of that out, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!